I know just about every garage in town. I guess I ought to know them all. More professionals use Napa parts than any other. That's because they can't afford to put in the same part twice. Just look at the signs. When did you see anything but we install Napa parts? Dan here liked us so much, he became a Napa Auto Care Center.
How you doing?
Yep, everybody loves Napa. Of course, some say it's the hat. I think it's my good looks.
We keep America running.
You want to know how to choose a motor oil? Take a ride to your local garage and see what the mechanic puts into his own car. Fact is, of all the brands of motor oil, more ASC certified master technicians choose Valvoline for use in their own cars and trucks. So before you buy a motor oil for your car, know the one more top mechanics put into theirs. Valvoline, the #1 choice of America's top mechanics.
And driving the #6 Valvoline Ford Thunderbird from Batesville, Arkansas, it's Mark Martin. Ladies and gentlemen, as the drivers make their way to the cars, we'd like to thank the sponsor of this Winston Cup season finale, Napa Auto Parts. And here to get this Napa 500 underway are the most famous words in racing.
Gentlemen, start your engines.
For all of us here in the Winston Cup Series, it's been a long year. For some teams, the year's been better than others. But for us, here in the Roush Racing Camp, this season has run the gamut of emotions. In the course of 1 year, we, the Sunday Warriors, have felt the sweet thrill of victory and near victories with top 5 and top 10 finishes.
I guess my favorite road story ever working here was my first Winston Cup win at Talladega this year. We're not really known for our speedway stuff, and to come up and win the race at the end there was a really exciting moment for me. And to stand in victory lane for the first time was a dream of mine since I was about 17 years old. I've been racing late models and worked my way up in the business, and to finally get there was really something. And then come on and win 3 more races this year was really good. And we really want to win Atlanta. We're really pushing hard for it. We got a good race car sitting over there.
And now, it's almost over. Just 328 laps to go in the Napa 500 before the final score is settled and a new Winston Cup champion is crowned. While we may be out of the hunt for the championship this year, we're still jockeying for position. According to how we run today, dictates either a 3rd or 4th place finish in the final point standings. But before this race gets underway, why don't you take a break and get comfortable? Come back to the Roush Racing Shop in Liberty, North Carolina, and see what this week prior to the Napa 500's been like. You'll see the hard work and dedication that went into preparing Mark Martin's Ford Thunderbird for what'll be some of the best beating and banging competition in the world. So what are you waiting for? Let's go. Yes, it's incredibly loud in here. Between the machinery used to craft these cars and the extremely loud ruckus we make when we set the timing, it's a wonder any of us have any hearing left. But seriously, folks, we do this job because we love it. Many of us grew up with this sport, and a fair number of us have even raced our own cars in other circuits. But no matter how similar or different our backgrounds are, we're all here at Roush Racing with one common focus: to win races safely and effectively.
Hi, folks. I'm Steve Meal, crew chief for the Valvoline Ford here at Roush Racing. While I've been around racing since I was 6 months old, my Winston Cup career actually started in 1974 when I went to work for Benny Parsons. In 1975, I was fortunate enough to get a job with the king, Richard Petty, and eventually worked my way to being his crew chief in 1981. In 1984, I took an opportunity to go to work with Dale Inman at Hagen Racing, where Terry Labonte carried us all to the Winston Cup Championship in 1984. In 1987, Jack Roush called, and from that moment on, I've worked on the Ford Thunderbirds here for him.
Now, if any of you know the Roush story, you know that this man has helped some of the best drag racers, SCCA, and Trans Am racers make their way to victory lane more times than any of us here can count. The man is incredible. Currently, he owns 10 race teams, including the number 6 and the number 16 Winston Cup teams that are housed in the main shop facility here in Liberty, as well as the number 60 Busch team located in the building behind us.
It's a real benefit to us to be tied in with a huge engineering company like Roush Industries in Michigan. We rely on them for all kinds of engineering and prototype development help, and the biggest single thing we get from them is all our Winston Cup and Busch Grand National engines. Every Monday morning, a truck leaves Livonia, Michigan, heads down here to Liberty, North Carolina with our engines for the next week, and it takes the engines from the previous week's race home and rebuilds them for the week after that. So it's a big company, and we're proud to be a part of it, although we're just a little satellite group down here in Liberty, North Carolina.
When I came down to join the NASCAR program in 1988, one of the things that was a big surprise to me was to find out how much information was traded among the crew chiefs and among the drivers. It frightened me because I said, gee, if you guys are as smart as I think you are, why would you share the things that you know to other people? And of course, that's the way the business is done. Everybody helps everybody. And taking that to its next limit, if I can have Mark, Ted, and Jeff all work together, and Buddy, Howard, and Steve, or Steve, Howard, and Buddy work together, then I'll have a better relationship than guys that blow hot and cold on working for one another, depending on who beat who at the last race, or which driver ran into which car at the last race. Those relationships go up and down. But we hope to be able to build a program that consolidates all the test information. If I've got one car that is instrumented for engine things at a test and another car that's instrumented for chassis on a different program, then I'll put all that data in together and have everybody get wiser from it.
Team owner Jack Roush is known far and wide as Mr. Ford. Since the mid-1950s, Jack has had a Ford connection. And today, with his race teams racking up thousands of pavement miles each year, Ford Motor Company depends on the Roush Racing program for research and development of their production vehicles.
Ford gave me my first job out of college, 1964. I came out of Berea College, Berea, Kentucky, and I interviewed with the Air Force. Wanted to fly airplanes. They wouldn't put me in pilot school right away, so I took a job with Ford, and very quickly started racing with some of the Ford guys that had a program, a recreational kind of a club called the Fastbacks. They pooled their money, and 10 people paid dues and had a relationship with a Ford dealer, Starkey West in Detroit there. And we traveled the country much like I do today with my Winston Cup program, except I drove virtually everywhere. And traveled the country, participated in a dozen big races a year, and without a major sponsor, really did a nice job. And anyway, Ford and its racing club gave me a chance to get started and learn a lot of things that I didn't know that were very important, and provided the basis for my automotive knowledge that really is the heart of my business and my racing program today.
With 1 week to go before the season's final race in Atlanta, our Valvoline team prepares the Roush engines for race readiness. While they're assembled in Michigan, the motors are shipped to the shop for final preparation. We get qualifying motors ready for first round qualifying on Friday, and the race motors ready for the grueling 3.5 hours around Atlanta Motor Speedway on Sunday. At that point, endurance is everything.
We take basically two different setups to the racetrack every weekend. One would be the qualifying setup, which we use on Friday, and the other would be the race setup, which we work on all day Saturday and hopefully works real good on Sunday. The qualifying setup, the car will be set up a little bit looser, have a little bit less spoiler, have a little bit more air in the tires. It'll be kind of geared toward just making a bunch of speed in one lap. We'll have maybe more gear in it, maybe less gear in it, depending on what size the racetrack is. But we quickly move away from that onto the race setup. And the race setup needs to work on old tires with half a tank of fuel, with no fuel in the tank. It's the kind of thing where you have to have a lot of experience on the driver's part, because he needs to know what the car is supposed to feel like on Saturday afternoon, so that Sunday everything will be A-OK. So it's a matter of getting all tuned in, the driver understanding what he wants, looking at tire pressures, looking at tire temperatures, making sure there's enough longevity built into our engines, making sure we don't have too much gear in the rear end, which would turn it too much. So the first setup, the qualifying setup, is probably the easiest with Mark Martin, because he's such a good natural qualifier. And the race setup takes a little bit longer to work out. Typically, Saturday afternoon, we're getting that all figured out. And if we do our good job on Saturday, we'll be in good shape on Sunday.
Over here in the fabrication shop, with the Atlanta car near completion, Other cars are being prepared for an upcoming test date. Even though the race season is coming to an official end, the work at the shop never stops. In the off-season, from the dropping of the checkers in Atlanta to the green flag in Daytona, our team and the other 40-odd Winston Cup teams go for scheduled tests at various tracks, which of course are all under the watchful eye of our sanctioning body, NASCAR.
When we use the scales here, the computer scales, probably can't see on the thing, we're looking for percentages of weight. Steve will give us the percentages of weights he wants for what racetrack. And Mark will talk about it. What we're trying to do is get the right side to weigh 1,600 pounds and the overall weight to be 3,400 pounds with the correct diagonal, which is the right left rear weight. And then we're also looking for a front weight. You'll see us, we'll probably slide lead in this car, maybe even add some lead in this car as we go through the procedure. That's basically what we're going to do.
We need 15 more pounds.
Just an extension will do. Your thing will probably do. Bitch, you got it. We pull a 50 around here, we're going to be on that hole.
We pull a 50, we won't be nothing but that.
Carrying the money.
While any week before a race is extremely hectic and pressure-filled, we sometimes just have to take time out for a few laughs. Unbeknownst to new crew member Skip Eiler, our new shocks expert, as part of our rookie induction, we put some oil under the shocks and, well, you see what happens.
We'll take them all off and go through the whole thing again because I've got where I don't trust you now.
Skip, come here, man. We did that to you. We got you.
He was tore up.
Well, they poured oil under one of the shocks in there, and the shocks just don't leak oil unless there's a bad problem, and they were trying to get into trouble. Is what they were trying to do.
No, we had Steve in it too.
You had Steve in it too?
Yeah.
So while I had all the stuff out, I didn't want to put everything away before we corrected my mistake, and so I went over there and, being the stand-up guy that I am, I brought it to the attention of Steve and said, man, this thing's leaking oil. And that's when it all started.
That's probably one of the best things about working closely with these team members day in and day out. We become almost like family. We laugh together and sometimes cry together, which is why safety is so important. We don't want people we care about getting hurt. One area where crew members are especially concerned with safety is the fuel cell.
Let's look at this car here and you can see. This car's dirty, we just raced it. The cell fits down in this cage here, and this is a full frame assembly that goes around it. And if you back a car in the wall hard, which is what happens with these cars, it'll crush this area. And what we're trying to do with the check ball assembly is as the fuel cell's crushed, it pushes this ball up and locks in to this piece here, which is the fuel filler neck, and you can see that's a positive seal that keeps fuel from coming out of the race car. That helps safeguard the drivers and the people who are going to come and help the driver get out of the car after a serious accident. Mark hasn't been hurt in our car since I've worked here, and we try to make sure that our stuff's as safe as it can be, because Mark's the future of this race team, and we don't want to have any problem with it. And I kind of like the guy anyway too, so we work hard on our fuel cells. The foam inside helps absorb a lot of the impact, as you can see. I'll just kind of disassemble it here. This fuel foam, the fuel flows through it real good. It's real coarse, as you can see. It's not like your dish rag or something. It's real coarse, so the fuel just flows through it real well. This helps absorb the impact of a crash too, and keeps the fuel from sloshing in there. We don't want the fuel to slosh at all. This piece fits there, and then this is with the fuel pickup that we use. It's designed and built here at Roush Industries. It sits in the corner of the cell just like that. And there's two doors, these trap doors. It allows the fuel to flow in, and then the door's shut. So as the fuel cell gets low, the fuel level gets low in here, the car goes in the corner, it'll fill this box up, and then when it's going down a straightaway, this box is full and these doors are closed, and it still allows fuel to be picked up. That's one of the things that you really got to work on in Winston Cup racing, especially with a Ford. The fuel mileage isn't as good as a Chevrolet sometimes. The motor seems to use more fuel. So we work hard on getting our fuel cells to pick up as much as possible. You're only allowed 22 gallons, but the key is picking up those 22 gallons. And we work hard at trying to get that. Some of our cells are better than others. We have one that we race everywhere on the big tracks. It just seems to pick up a little better than some of the other ones, and a lot of it is the way this box fits in here. And I'm trying to duplicate that right here on this cell. That's the car we're going to take to Atlanta. It has that fuel cell in it.
Even though we're busy working on the cars, we often stop and answer questions or sign autographs for our dedicated Roush Racing fans. Yes, like many of the race shops, ours is open to the public. There are only a few doors the fans can't go behind, and many people come and make a day of visiting our race complex.
The visitors are more than welcome to come in. We encourage them to come by and visit the shop Monday through Friday. And we have several, anywhere from 5 a day to up to 200 a day, so it's right much.
Well, by now it's Thursday afternoon and the road crew is heading to the airplane. But this is where Dennis Ritchie comes in. As our truck driver, Dennis is responsible for getting the car to the track.
Like if we have to be there on Friday morning at the racetrack, we usually try to pull out here at the shop around dinner time the day before we have to be there. And then NASCAR has us parking the trucks at 6 o'clock on Friday mornings. And then the other crew members, they come in at 7. So your truck driver's up a good hour to hour and a half before the rest of the crew is. And NASCAR parks the trucks in the order that you are in the point standing. The first 4 races of 1996, you park on 1995's points. Then when we get to Atlanta, you start on the 1996 points. Whoever's, of course, you're a Winston Cup champion for 1995, always parks first. Whoever's leading the points then, say it's Dale Earnhardt, would park second. If Mark Martin's second in points, he would park third and on down the line. And it stays that way throughout the year.
At 7 a.m. on Friday, NASCAR opens the gate for crew members to go to work. And before a car can go out and practice, it must pass NASCAR inspection. NASCAR tries to make sure all teams follow the same set of guidelines so as not to have an unfair advantage. After a succession of routine template inspections, the car is then readied for morning practice. It seems that all the teams are trying to find the perfect setup. In between practice laps, Mark tries to make time for his fans, but all the while, his mind is focused on what it'll take to gain the pole position. The drivers and crew make their way to pit road for that one pressure-filled qualifying lap. 48 teams have shown up to try and make the show. 6 teams, however, will have to go home.
Well, we made some changes to the car after we went back and made a qualifying run. Looks like we're pretty fast. Rest of Walsh is the fastest right now with a 29.68 unofficial, and we run a 29.72. Mark's smiling from ear to ear, so that's good news. Looks like we might have a shot at the pole today.
While the Valvoline team looks confident, it's hard to say who will sit on the pole. There are a lot of strong teams here today. With all eyes now on Mark Martin, team members stand by, holding their breath and hoping for the top spot. But it just isn't there. While many teams would be pleased with a 9th place position, it's clear that to Mark Martin, 9th just isn't good enough.
Well, I haven't had a chance to talk to Mark yet, but apparently the car slowed up just a little bit from what we'd run earlier today. I don't know what was wrong. Hopefully it was just got a little loose or a little tight. Who knows? We'll ask Mark later and see what he says.
I really thought that we had a shot at the pole. We were one of the fastest cars in practice. All throughout practice, the car felt really good. I felt real good about things. Not necessarily expecting to sit on the pole, but I went out and got a great lap, one that I don't think I could ever top. And it was a huge disappointment to find out that it was that far off. If I would have made a mistake, or if I would have slipped, or if it would have been this or that, fine, but it was a great lap, one of the best laps, you know, I could ever cut at Atlanta, and the car performed well, and, you know, I don't really know why it was only 9th when, you know, any other time when you do that well, when the car works well, I get a good lap and all that, you know, we're always in the top 3 or 4, always. And so I guess expectations were very high based on the things that we'd seen in practice, the times and the way things were feeling. Then the lap felt incredible. I thought when I was coming in, you know, that I was going to get greeted with a lot of excited, you know, folks, crew guys, and, you know, nobody was, you know, nobody even came around for a while, you know. So anyway, sometimes you just get disappointed, I guess.
With qualifying over now, the team must shift gears and concentrate on the upcoming race. Typically, they would have the rest of today and all of tomorrow to figure out what it'll take to end up in Victory Circle. But Mother Nature would have other plans. A weather system moved into the area, dumping so much rain that Saturday's second round qualifying is canceled. And practice consists of a few laps late in the day, barely enough to prepare for the tough Napa 500.
You know, everybody's in the same boat. No one else gets any morning practice, so we had enough yesterday to sort of know where we're at, and we should be okay.
Sunday morning dawned bright and clear, with extremely cold temperatures plummeting into the low 20s. Still, a record-breaking 170,000 die-hard fans bundle up and await the start of the Napa 500. Mark Martin is tense today, even though he knows this track has been good to him in the past. Still, the Winston Cup championship that he so desperately wants has once again eluded him. And with points so close among the top 10 contenders, Mark is still jockeying for position. If all goes well on the track, his chances of taking home third in the final Winston Cup points will be good. If not, fourth will have to do.
We put so much pressure on ourselves that you know, we don't accept, there's no excuse for failing. There was a lot of intensity going into that race because we were fighting for third place in the point standings. And we truly believed that we could pull that off if we didn't break. We're not used to getting just flat out beat on a racetrack, and we got flat out beat on the racetrack. And, you know, that really hurt an awful lot. And to use the same methodology and the same setups and the same cars and the same most everything, the same things that made us a winner in '94 there made us, humiliated us in, you know, the next year. That's part of racing. And I can't say that I can get out of the car after that happens and say, hey, you know, it's okay, we'll get them next week. I'm not going to say that because I'm going to be crushed. You know, and I'm going to feel like that I've let everyone else down because surely there was something that I could have done to change the outcome of these things.
Flagman Doyle Ford drops the green flag and the race is underway. Martin goes for the lead, but is passed by several stronger cars. Martin is frustrated. While he hangs in the top 10 during the early laps, he soon fades.
Atlanta, we typically take a real good race car to Atlanta. We run real well there. We've won races there. We're real proud of our record there. We went there in the fall of '95 with the same car we had there in the spring, and in the spring we ran real fast. We had a little miscommunication, ran Mark out of fuel, but we still ran about as good as Jeff Gordon in the DuPont car, and he won the race. So we were feeling like when we went back in the fall we'd be in good shape. We qualified typical top 10 start for Mark Martin and Roush Racing. We thought we were in pretty good shape. Saturday during the ARCA race, from about noon to 3 o'clock, the temperature plummeted. We had one final practice, and it was almost dusk before we got going real well. And we ran okay, but we were a little bit frustrated that we couldn't get the car tight enough. But what happened in the spring was the racetrack got tighter as the race went on, so we thought maybe we were going to be okay, because if the track got any tighter at all, we'd be really fast and we'd be okay. Unfortunately, on Sunday, that didn't happen. The track got looser, so the guys that started out a little tight actually got faster than us, and those of us, the 24 car included, that ran good in the spring on a loose setup, got looser and looser and looser as the day went on. So we had some major chassis problems there all that Sunday afternoon. We wound up 14th or 17th or something like that. So we were real disappointed when the end of our season. We thought maybe we'd hurt the race car. So we brought it home, measured it all. Everything was just fine. It was just a matter of we didn't communicate well enough with each other, didn't understand which direction the racetrack was going to go in. Took a little gamble with an understanding for what the racetrack had done in the spring, and the racetrack went 180 degrees from that. So we ended up hurting ourselves and not running like we wanted to, but we're anxious to go back to Atlanta and prove we know what we're doing.
The crew tries to make critical adjustments during the pit stops, but it isn't enough. This would be Chevrolet's day, as Dale Earnhardt would take the checkers and Jeff Gordon the championship. Mark Martin and the Roush Racing team would finish 17th in the race and 4th in the overall point standings. A few weeks later, NASCAR's top 10 drivers were honored at the annual NASCAR Winston Cup banquet at the Waldorf Astoria Hotel in New York City. There, inside Winston Cup Racing's reporter Randy Pemberton caught up with Martin as he came off stage after accepting his 4th place winnings.
Well, Mark, as you said on stage, it is hard to believe that you finished 4th this year. I know that's somewhat of a disappointment for you, and I understand why, because you're the consummate racer yourself. But nonetheless, you guys did have a good year. A lot of guys would give their right arm to finish 4th.
Yeah, really what I meant by I can't believe we finished 4th this year is that, you know, they did such a great job, and we had a fantastic year. And we almost never stumped our toe in '95. We won poles and races and led and got bonus points and did everything right. And we were still, you know, way behind 1st and 2nd place in points. So those guys must have even been better. But my race team was fabulous. I could never ask for more than what they gave me this year. The best race cars I've ever driven. And I look forward to doing it again. I just hope that we can continue to stay that far ahead of our competition, because you know, it's real competitive out there and everybody's working hard. My guys just work smarter, I think.
Within the sport of stock car racing, there's a prevailing sense of hopefulness, a belief that tomorrow will be brighter, and a determination that this will be our year of victory. For Mark Martin and the Roush Racing team, the greatest celebrations are yet to come.
You know, these Napa Auto Care Centers give you the best of both worlds. You get a local owner who really cares, the backing of Napa, America's most complete source of auto parts.
Now, Napa Auto Care Centers have the Napa Card, an instant line of credit with 90 days same as cash on purchases over $200, and a warranty that's extended to 12 months, 12,000 miles. The Napa Card, available at Napa Auto Care Centers and Napa Auto Parts stores.
Keep America running.